Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America, with the daring of our rescue workers, with the caring for strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful, and it's prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to get help to those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. The functions of our government continue without interruption. Federal agencies in Washington, which had to be evacuated today, are reopening for essential personnel tonight and will be open for business tomorrow. Our financial institutions remain strong, and the American economy will be open for business as well. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. I appreciate so very much the members of Congress who have joined me in strongly condemning these attacks. And on behalf of the American people, I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight, I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
That was President Bush's address to the nation earlier this evening. This morning's terrorist attack against the U.S. leaves the nation in shock. Good evening, I'm Kylie Gandoff.
And I'm John Ratliff. Two commercial jets slammed into the Twin Towers of New York's World Trade Center, eventually causing both buildings to collapse. A third jet crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and then a fourth 80 miles south of Pittsburgh. CNN's Garrick Utley has more.
It was such a beautiful morning. The air was clear over Manhattan, the sky a rich blue. The two twin towers stood tall, anchored in bedrock of granite, so secure. so unshakable. And then, we have seen smoke and destruction before, but we've never seen madness like this. Or catastrophe like this. It was a morning when words could only begin to express the horror.
It was like a blizzard, but a blizzard that wasn't cold, a blizzard that had no wind. It was just hot.
There was an enormous fireball. There was fire, debris falling to the ground, and then just a whole kind of mushroom of smoke that sort of just billowed up.
We knew that some of what happened this morning could happen, that there could be another attack on the World Trade Center as there was 8 years ago, that terrorists might attack the Pentagon and hijack commercial flights. But how could we imagine that all this could happen? That much of the government would be shut down, the capital of the United States evacuated, and the White House, that the president of the most powerful nation in the world would take evasive action for his own security. Across this nation, from airports closed down to home to workplace, we watched and tried to comprehend what we were seeing. It took time after the shock of the terror to digest the dimension of the human tragedy. We tried to imagine what those caught in the soaring towers, in the doomed planes in the Pentagon went through. Before the end, we can only wonder what happens next. The president vows action.
The United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts.
Retaliation, even revenge, may feel sweet one day, but right now there are only the remnants of terror, the pain of the tragedy, and the tears. Garrett Utley, CNN, New York.
And after the break, we'll tell you about the possible suspects for this attack.
Plus, we'll sort out all of today's tragic events. Stay with us.
Only one place to turn for local news.
About 2 million Serbian residents.
While state has gained national attention.
NewsCenter 43.
America's
And Rule 7. We're okay on time now, guys.
Clouds begin to form.
Muncie only live TV newscast.
Reporting live.
Only live.
On Saturday as we go to the
An
highlight.
official CNN Student Bureau. NewsCenter 43. Monday through Thursday at 5:30 and 9:30 on First Channel 43.
This has been a day full of overwhelming events and a lot of information to sort through.
NewsCenter reporter Dustin Grove takes a look at what happened when.
5 a.m. Eastern Time, a hijacked American Airlines plane crashes into the World Trade Center's North Tower. 18 minutes later, a second plane crashes into the center's 110-story South Tower. Fearing a terrorist attack, all New York City airports are shut down by 9:18. 9:21, all New York City tunnels and bridges are closed. Nearly 20 minutes later, the Federal Aviation Administration grounds all of their domestic flights. Move it! Come on! 5 minutes after that, at 9:45, what was described as a large plane crashes into the Pentagon, destroying much of the Army Department.
And we looked out at it, all of a sudden, boom, it seemed like it wasn't even real.
10 o'clock, what remained of the World Trade Center's two towers collapsed as emergency workers worked desperately to find the injured. Meanwhile, in Washington, the West Wing of the White House is evacuated, as well as the State Department.
Literally, the debris was so thick you could not see your hand.
At 10 minutes after 10, a frantic call comes from a passenger aboard United Airlines Flight 93. A man locked himself in the bathroom with his cell phone and called 911. "We are being hijacked. We are being hijacked," the man told dispatchers. Then he said his plane was going down. United Flight 93 from Boston bound for L.A. crashed 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Soon after, all international flights bound for the U.S. are diverted to Canada. One FAA official said this morning it was the first time in U.S. history this has ever happened. United Nations headquarters evacuated at 20 minutes after 11. By noon, 4 aircrafts are confirmed down. Much of New York City is evacuated, stock trading closed, and a nation watching, stunned.
We have several updates for you now. It's believed 100 people were killed or injured so far in today's attack on the Pentagon. Also, a third smaller World Trade Center building, building number 7, collapsed in the late afternoon. The 47-story tall building had been damaged when the Twin Towers collapsed. It's believed few people were inside the building because it had been evacuated earlier in the day. However, the area was swarming with rescue crews and investigators. Well, many of us really didn't know much about the Twin Towers in New York City until today's attack. Here's a brief description. The Twin Towers were part of the World Trade Center complex. The World Trade Center complex was comprised of 7 buildings, including the Twin Towers. Around 50,000 people worked in the complex that was home to stores, restaurants, international businesses, and hotels.
There's one big question that remains on many people's minds tonight. The nation wants to know who's responsible for today's attack. U.S. intelligence officials told CNN there are good indications that people linked to Saudi exile and well-known terrorist leader Osama bin Laden may be to blame. But a Pakistani newspaper reports that bin Laden has denied involvement in a written statement. He says, "I'm not involved in these actions in New York and Washington, but I support these actions." He goes on to say, when the innocent people were killed in Palestine, why were the people of America silent?
Bin Laden's home base is now in Afghanistan. That country was quick to react to today's tragedy. The foreign minister in Afghanistan's ruling Taliban government says his government does not allow bin Laden to launch attacks from their soil. Afghanistan was also quick to denounce today's attacks on U.S. soil and says they will conduct their own investigation into who is to blame for the attacks. As of yet, no one has claimed responsibility for today's attack.
The United States is receiving a lot of international reaction to these attacks. Great Britain Prime Minister Tony Blair gives his reaction today.
As I said earlier, this mass terrorism is the new evil in our world. The people who perpetrate it have no regard whatever for the sanctity or value of human life. And we, the democracies of the world, must come together to defeat it and eradicate it. This is not a battle between the United States of America and terrorism.
Blair also said that a number of security measures are in place in his country. Students here at Ball State have also felt the effects of this tragedy, but the day went on as normal for most of the campus. President Blaine Brownell decided not to cancel classes today. He says he feels there is no threat to Ball State's campus. However, a crisis group met today to review all possible considerations linked to today's national tragedy. He says they are prepared to take appropriate action if a threat towards the university community arises.
Former 2nd District Representative David McIntosh says he was horrified when he heard about today's attack. McIntosh is now teaching at Ball State's economic department. He says his prayers went out immediately to those affected. As a former U.S. representative, McIntosh says plans do exist at the nation's capital in case of emergency situations like today's. McIntosh says many families of congressional members didn't know where to find them, but were told everything was fine. And now we have that look at student reaction.
A hush has fallen over Ball State University today.
I don't know, I can't really believe it's happening, just kind of surreal. I don't know, it just doesn't seem real right now. It's just shocking is all I can really say.
What's your reaction to what's going on? How do you feel? What's your emotions?
Just why? I mean, more than anything, why? Like, what is it going to accomplish? I really don't understand it. I don't really understand what we're going to prove by it.
State students are in shock. They are scared. The words coming out of their mouth are words, you don't normally hear students say. They're frightened and scared.
Well, it makes me sick just because, we're supposed to have, all the security, we're not supposed to worry about it, and then something like this happens. It just scares me.
I'm really scared. I know my dad is in New York right now, and he was supposed to fly out back home this afternoon, and he won't be able to get home, and I don't know where he is, and I don't know how to get a hold of him right now, so yeah, I'm kind of scared.
Ball State's eyes have been fixed on televisions and radios all day. Students crowded into the architecture building, student center, and empty classrooms across campus.
I thought it was a joke at first. Yeah. I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do about it. Yeah.
I feel like we need to retaliate, and I know America wants to retaliate, and I know we will, but I don't know if it's really going to help anything, because then they'll probably end up just coming right back with something.
The overall feeling at Ball State and around the nation is sadness.
Just feel for all the families of all the people involved, and it's just tragic.
For NewsCenter.
If you stopped at the gas station on your way home today, you may have been surprised. Next, local reaction to the possible price increase.
Plus, many prayer sessions and candlelight vigils have been held throughout the day. We'll tell you more when NewsCenter 9:30 returns. The Indianapolis International Airport remains shut down tonight, as do all airports across the nation. This morning, the FAA grounded all flights and ordered planes already in the air to the nearest airport. Within an hour and a half of the FAA's demand, WCRH-TV reported that over 60 planes were diverted and landed in Indianapolis. Officials say there are over 6,000 extra passengers stranded in the city. Every effort has been made to accommodate those stranded. As of right now all flights were grounded until noon tomorrow. Our reporters hit Ball Stage streets to get more reaction from students now that we know more about today's events in New York and Washington. Some say the disaster was surreal.
I'm not sure which tower it was that fell first. I think the North Tower. When it fell in the footage, it looked like it had just literally peeled like a banana.
Well, this was one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my entire life. I was watching the news while it was happening, but
Overall, students felt remorse.
Hundreds of Ball State students and faculty are coping with today's situation by participating in a prayer vigil. Moments ago, people gathered at Emmons Auditorium and the group Revolution organized a prayer vigil at La Follette Field. Another prayer meeting will take place tomorrow at 6 p.m. in front of Frog Baby. Multiple religious organizations will be present. Organizers are inviting everyone to come.
In the midst of today's events, news that gas prices could skyrocket sent people to the gas pumps. Many left waiting in long lines. This evening, things are calming down at area gas stations.
NewsCenter reporter Josh Schwitzman tells us people are still fearful that when they wake up tomorrow morning, gas could be around $5 a gallon.
Things are much quieter here at the Village Pantry on University Avenue. This afternoon, Muncie gas stations were packed with people trying to get gas. They feared it would skyrocket as a result of today's attack on the United States.
Everyone's telling me that gas is going to go up tomorrow by like $4, and so of course I waited till the very last minute and I don't have any gas, so I was trying to beat it.
But almost 12 hours after the first attack on the World Trade Center, gas is still under $2 a gallon, but people just want to be cautious.
I'm just trying to fill up before everyone says that gas prices could go up to $4 or $5 a gallon, and I can't afford that.
Things are a little bit quieter here at the Village Pantry. This afternoon, this parking lot was packed full of people, fearful that gas would reach $4 to $5 a gallon. But this evening, we're still seeing prices under $2. But people still say that by tomorrow, you'll be paying $4 a gallon.
I have some friends that live in Fisher, and the gas prices there are $4 to $5 a gallon right now. So I mean, that's not that far away.
So in the coming weeks, folks will not only be keeping tabs on the investigation regarding today's attacks, but they'll also keep a close eye on the pumps. In Muncie, Josh Schwitzman, NewsCenter 43.
Still to come tonight, the world of sports is on hold out of respect for today's victims.
Plus, Andrea Burnatz will be in with a look at your forecast. Stay with us.
And for the first time since the death of President Roosevelt, baseball has canceled all games through at least Wednesday. Meanwhile, the PGA Tour has decided to shorten the World Golf Championships to a 36-hole event, postponing the start until Friday. As for the NFL, no decision will be made regarding cancellations for another 48 hours. And while some schools have already postponed their football games, the NCAA plans to hold a teleconference tomorrow with all conference commissioners to decide what to do about the rest of this weekend's games. For now, the sports world will mourn this horrible tragedy.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Stay with us, Andrea Burnatz. We'll have your forecast.
Stay tuned.
It's been a clear and quiet night here in Muncie and around Ball State. Right now we're seeing temperatures at 59 degrees. Our winds are calm and the humidity is starting to climb up there at 90%, but those should be going down and diminishing by tomorrow morning. And if we can take a look at our national satellite, you can see we have some rain, a little bit of remnants here going through and pushing through the panhandles of Florida. And out here towards the East Coast, you can see these are the remains of what was Hurricane Aaron, now pushing off and moving out towards the Pacific. And for the national radar, you can still see some of those storms taking place down here within Florida. Much of our area and here where we are is going to be clear and remaining clear for the next few days. And for that matter, we can see that the high pressure system is dominating our area. Cold front has moved out, but good news for us, we are going to be seeing some colder weather coming through, fall-like temperatures, and I know we're all excited about that. But for tonight, our skies are going to remain clear. Low is going to get around 55, so you can make sure to keep those windows out and open. And looking up for tomorrow, you can see tomorrow morning, sunny again. Temperatures around 58 degrees, and those winds are going to be picking up at 5 miles per hour. And continuing out through tomorrow, looking at the map, you can see the high-pressure systems moving off towards the east coast, going to be bringing them some nicer weather. Here, this cold front is going to be coming through, but guess what? No rain in sight, but we are going to be seeing cooler temperatures, so windows are going to be able to stay open for the next few evenings. And for tomorrow, it's going to be sunny out, high of 80 degrees, so still rather hot out. Winds northeast at 5 miles per hour. And taking a look at our 3-day outlook, you can see that it's going to be absolutely gorgeous out for the next few days. And as you can see, when that cold front pushes through, we are going to be seeing temperatures drop down to 67. So that means you can wear your jeans, you can start pulling out the sweaters maybe. Just that nice, calm, enjoyable weather.
Nice fall weather.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, Andrea.
All right, thanks, Andrea. Well, before we go, our crew here at NewsCenter would like to extend our heartfelt regrets out to the victims of today's events, and our hearts are with you this weekend. So thanks for joining us for NewsCenter at 9:30. I'm John Ratliff.
And I'm Kylie Gandolf. NewsCenter 43 is an official CNN student bureau. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for NewsCenter at 5:30. Good night.
Before this is over, go down as one of the most horrific days in our lifetime. We're joined by our colleague, CNN's Jeff Greenfield.
Aaron, you know what? In 1993, when terrorists bombed the world...
No, vantage point issue. No, couldn't see it from this side. I didn't see it, and I was here when the second hit. The fire is spreading now. We can see it completely. Oh my God, it's inside the first building, the radio antenna on it, antenna. That fire spread. It looks like 2 other floors. And at least 3, one of my neighbors is saying, and also growing in
Okay, Jill, we're going to switch over to forwards and winds report.